All right, if you're a contractor in Texas, you know the feeling. You did the work, you shook on it, everything seemed fine, but the payment never showed up. It's a really stressful spot to be in. But here's the thing, having no formal written contract doesn't always mean you're out of luck. Today, we're going to break down exactly how you can still get paid.
We're going to tackle this in 5 simple parts. First, we'll get right to the heart of the problem, the unpaid invoice on a handshake deal. Then, we'll dive into your 2 main legal paths to getting paid. After that, we'll figure out which path is right for you, because it depends on your specific job. Then we'll cover the single most important defense you have. And finally, we'll walk through the common mistakes that can totally sink your claim.
First up, let's really frame this problem. Handshake deals are super common in construction. They're built on trust. But when that trust is broken and the payment goes missing, that handshake can feel like a huge mistake. So, just how big of a problem is this, really? Well, get this. The data shows that a staggering 72% of subcontractors are left waiting more than a month to get paid for work they've already finished. And this isn't just a small hiccup. For a lot of folks, this is a massive cash flow crisis, which is why understanding your lien rights it's absolutely essential for survival.
So it all really boils down to this one crucial question, right? You held up your end of the bargain, you did the work based on a verbal agreement. Can you still file a lien here in Texas? The short answer might surprise you. It's often yes. But oh man, the details are what really, really matter.
Okay, so let's shift gears and talk about the solution. What can you actually do about it? Texas law gives you 2 very different, but very powerful tools to help you get paid, even without that formal contract. They're called constitutional liens and statutory liens.
But first, let's do a super quick refresher. A mechanic's lien, it isn't just some empty threat you make. It is a formal legal claim that gets filed against the property itself. It's your leverage. It basically says, hey, I added value to this property, and it's not fully paid for until I am.
So, here in Texas, you've got 2 distinct options on the table. The first is a constitutional lien. Think of this one as simpler, more direct, and it's often your best friend when you don't have a written contract. The second is a statutory lien, which has a few more hoops you have to jump through. Which path you get to take? Well, that all depends on a couple of key factors we're about to jump into right now. All right, so this is a crucial point. Your lien rights are not one size fits all. They change, and they change dramatically based on 2 big things: the type of property you worked on and your specific role in the project. Getting this right is, without a doubt, the first step to making sure your claim is valid. First, let's talk about the property. If you're working on a commercial project, an office building, a retail shop, even a rental property, the rules are way more flexible. A verbal agreement is often good enough to let you file a lien. But, and this is a huge but, if you're working on a residential homestead, the rules are ironclad. You absolutely, positively must have a written contract signed by both spouses if the owner is married, and it has to be signed before you even pick up a hammer. Okay, so the second big factor is your position in what I like to call the construction food chain, right? Are you the main contractor, the one dealing directly with the owner, or are you a subcontractor or a supplier, one step removed? Where you are in this hierarchy completely changes the rules of the game for you. Let's break that down real quick. If you're the original contractor, the one the owner hired, you're in the driver's seat. You can use that powerful constitutional lien, and often you don't need a written contract. Now, if you're a subcontractor or a supplier, you're going to use a statutory lien. It has more notice requirements, but you can still often file it based on a verbal deal for commercial work. But watch out, there are exceptions. If you're a surveyor or a demolition contractor, the law is crystal clear. You must have a written contract. No way around it. Okay, so this brings us to the most practical question of all, right? If you don't have that one single piece of paper, that formal contract, how in the world do you prove your case? Well, this is where all your everyday records suddenly become your legal lifeline. I really want you to remember this. Every single text message, every email, every photo, every invoice, it's like a puzzle piece. And when you put them all together, they create the full picture that a formal contract would have spelled out. They prove an agreement existed and that you did the work you said you were going to do. So, what should you be collecting? Seriously, everything. I'm talking text messages and emails that confirm the scope of work, progress photos with timestamps, copies of every invoice you sent, and any records of partial payments you received, even witness statements from other people on the job site who saw you there doing the work. Your goal here is to build a case that is just undeniable.
And this is exactly what that proof looks like in the real world. See? It's not one shiny, perfect document. It's a collection of all your ordinary, day-to-day business records that, when you gather them all together, become incredibly powerful evidence that will support your lien claim.
All right, once you've got all your proof, all your ducks in a row, the filing process itself is a very strict step-by-step procedure. You start by gathering all those documents. Then, you send out any required pre-lien notices. From there, you prepare and get the official lien affidavit notarized, you file it with the correct county clerk, and finally, you notify the owner. You have to follow every single one of these steps perfectly because a mistake anywhere along the line can get your entire claim thrown out.
And here is a little detail that trips up so many people. You have to file the lien in the county where the property is physically located, not where your business office is. It sounds simple, but you'd be surprised how many people get this wrong, and it can completely invalidate your entire claim right from the start. We're in the home stretch now, and honestly, this might be the most important section of all. You can do everything right up to this point, but one of these common, simple mistakes can undo all of your hard work and cost you your right to get paid.
Okay, let's run through these real quick so you can avoid them. Number 1, miscalculating your deadline by using the invoice date instead of the last day you actually did work. 2, not having enough documentation to back up your claim. 3, failing to send those pre-lien notices to everybody you're supposed to. 4, making that property classification error, filing on a homestead like it's a commercial job. And 5, that simple but fatal error of filing in the wrong county. Any one of these can be a death blow to your lien. Look, in an industry where over 80% of contractors are dealing with payment delays, you just can't afford to have your claim thrown out on a technicality. Getting these details right, it isn't just about paperwork, it is your best and sometimes only defense for getting paid for the work you've already done.
So, what's the bottom line here? What's the one thing to take away from all this? In Texas, a handshake deal is not a dead end. It can be legally powerful, but that power comes directly from your knowledge of the rules and your diligence in documenting everything. Your proof is your power.
So I'll just leave you with this question to think about. The next time you shake hands on a deal, ask yourself, if this thing goes south, is my word backed up by a mountain of proof? Because here in Texas, the strength of your handshake is only as good as the records you keep.